Hi, welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. It's Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And this week's episode is brought to you by Simple Wishes. Simple Wishes offers hands-free pumping and nursing bras featuring a patented dual-function nursing clasp. And today's episode is also brought to you by Sarah's Chill. Sarah's Chill offers guaranteed convenience with their double-walled stainless steel container. And we'll hear more from our sponsors in a little while. But you can head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and check out our sponsor page and see if you can give any of them your business because they make this podcast possible. And while you're there, scroll down and enter your email address and you'll get episodes sent straight to your inbox every Monday. And Dianne has our review of the week, but I'm wondering if we should do our big announcement.
Should
first
we do it
or
before
second?
our review?
Or should we do the review and now make people wait?
Let's do the review.
Okay,
Let's do the
now
review
you have to wait
first.
for the BA.
The BA.
The big announcement.
Well, I thought big ass. Big
Or
ass.
the big ass, or
Yeah.
badass.
Badass. Yes, for the badass announcement. Yes. So this comes from our iTunes. Thank you very much for putting this on iTunes for us. Brookie Zebro. And she says this podcast is the only reason I successfully breastfed my first for my goal of a year. And now I'm back with my second newborn. Every baby is different, but these episodes apply to all the different situations that come up. So helpful. Thanks, ladies. Congratulations on baby number 2. That's awesome. And I'm so glad you're back with us. I think that's really fun. And, you did have a year with your first, was your goal. Awesome. We're going to talk today about what happens after a year. But that's not our big announcement. That is not our big announcement. But thank you so
we have
much.
A big announcement. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for leaving that on
excited
iTunes for us. I know we are. But thank you so much about, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for putting your reviews on iTunes. Let's talk at the same time the whole time, and that'll be quality podcast listening for all the listeners who want to blow their brains out right now.
All right, should we just go on with our announcement?
Yes.
Do you want to tell them?
Yes, I do. The big announcement is you guys are really fantastic, dedicated listeners, and there's more of you now. I think there's more of you now than ever now.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic because during the podcast, it seemed like maybe nobody was going to listen anymore because we had all other things on our mind. I totally understand. But it's growing. And so we thought we should just grow too. So now we are not going to publish just once a week for the month of December. We are going to publish twice a week. We're going to have episodes come out on Mondays and come out on Wednesdays. And this Wednesday, December 1st, will be the first episode of our Double December plan.
Yeah. So how does that work with if they're already signed up to get them downloaded, those will just go right too, right? Anything that we do.
Notified.
Awesome. So you'll
get notified, but
yeah. So if you have your email already into us and you get their Mondays sent right to your inbox, and you're going to start getting Wednesdays too.
Yeah, but also you're probably more likely subscribed through iTunes or whatever you are subscribed through. And so you'll just get notified. I think these people know how the podcasts work probably better than we do.
I was about to say that too. Probably better than us. So this will be for the month of December. And if it goes well and we seem to make it work with ours.
We might,
with our lives.
Continue.
Then that might be something that we keep doing. If you guys can stand to listen to us more than once a week, but there's going to be some good episodes in December. A lot of things people have been asking us for. We're going to kick into that, make those episodes for December. So
yeah, we picked some real bangers for December.
Yeah. Because
we really want to see if this is going to work. So first we're going to be talking this Wednesday, you'll hear we're going to talk all about comfort nursing. And no, we're not going to just go comfort nursing. Yeah.
Don't do it because it'll form a habit.
Yeah, no, we're going to talk about really what comfort nursing is and the actual importance of it, not just it's okay, it's necessary. This is
Mhm.
actually normal biological, like necessary behavior because all babies do it. It's not just like, oh, my baby doesn't comfort nurse. And like maybe there's ages and stages where they don't do it as much, but they all do it. And we're
Mhm.
often told that it is not necessary in any way. So that'll be Wednesday. And
Yes.
more throughout the month. And one of the ones that's coming out in the month is everyone's going to pop out their seats. You know, they're all going to pop out their seats. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We're going to cover marijuana.
We're going to take the leap and cover marijuana. Yeah.
So anyway, should we talk about 1 year now? What?
Yes. Now, but today, those are all the ones coming up. Now, I know you can barely stand the excitement, and now you got to listen to a whole episode of a year and now what?
No, but this is great.
But this is really good. So if you are somebody who made it to a year or your goal was a year and you're like, do I continue? Do I not? What's the point? If you're somebody that just started your breastfeeding relationship and you're like, do I want to continue on for a year? Like, what do I want to do? I'm not sure about my goals. This will be really informative for you because then you'll know like, okay, what happens after you get to a year? And this is actually really good timing for me, not that it really matters what I want in life, but it is really good timing for me because I've had probably like 3 in the last less than a week, 3 people contact me about consults regarding weaning after a year. So it is a really good conversation to have about what babies are still getting when you breastfeed past a year.
And I think a lot of people don't understand what to expect. It's like, okay, what changes? What's going to happen? What do I do now? This is, they're not babies anymore, although they really are. I remember
one mom specifically asked me, like, what is the benefit of breastfeeding past a year? So I know it's a question people have for sure.
Yeah, definitely. When I first started breastfeeding Jack, I just said I want to make it to a year. I think that's just a thing. It sounds like a good number. So people are like, yeah, a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, okay, I want to do a year. And it took about that long, maybe not quite that long, but almost that long to really feel like I was getting it. So once we hit a year, I was like, well, I'm not stopping now because it just finally started working. So I was like, I'm not interrupting this now. And I started learning more about like, how it's a normal behavior for kids and, that it's not just like a weird thing that people think it is. But there's, I feel like there's so much freedom when like 1 year is like this, it really is like a huge milestone. It's a really big thing. And we have to remember too, that like the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months and then up to a year and beyond, as long as, the breastfeeding parent and child are happy with it. And the World Health Organization recommends exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months and up to 2 years and beyond. So, when we look throughout history too, or around the world, I mean, it's really hard to come up with like an average weaning age because we don't have like just natural term breastfeeding really everywhere anymore. But what people have found is that kids will nurse anywhere between like 2.5 and 7. So, but so there are benefits, and that it is actually pretty normal if you let it go. If you kind of let them take the lead, they will go beyond a year. But at a year, if you choose to wean at a year, you do have so much more freedom too, because you don't have to worry about like donor milk and like getting the formula and all that. Like you do if you were weaning at like 6 months, you'd have to figure out how to replace that. At 1 year, you can really start to transition to like other things. And you have like so much more freedom when it comes to that. The pumping, if you're pumping, you can stop.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Like, and that's really the biggest thing. The mom that I talked to earlier today, she wanted to have a consult regarding weaning. And she's like, okay, we're at a year. We're about to be at a year. I wanted to, make my next plan for moving forward. And really what it comes down to is like, she just wanted to drop those pumps. She's a working parent and pumping 3 times a day at work and pumping in the evening and like, okay, let's get rid of that. Let's work on getting rid of that. But still interested in breastfeeding in the morning when her baby gets up and, in the evening when they're home before bed, but really just wanted to drop that pumping. And that is absolutely the first thing that can go. Like that can say goodbye to that. A lot of parents are working parents. That's what I'm like, celebrate that, like be done with it. We're going to be done with that. And then you really are free to do so much more. Like your breastfeeding relationship can look like what you want it to. Do you want to just breastfeed when you're with the baby? Do you want to just breastfeed in the morning? Do you want to wean completely? Do you want to just set up some boundaries? Like it really just depends on where you are at with your child, what they're doing. But you can definitely start to switch things around and make a different plan if you want to. I mean, once you get rid of the pumping, it's a game changer.
Yeah, that's something that really a lot of people don't like. I mean, I don't know anybody who likes pumping.
Oh my gosh, no.
So you can just smash that. Remember that show Office, or that movie Office Space, where they take the printer out back and they're bashing it with bats?
Oh yeah, throw it.
Do it, man. Yeah, and like, you could totally celebrate a year if if you've chosen to make it that far. Like, be proud of it. You see all these people like they make boob cakes and have because I feel like I did this too. Like you have this the first birthday of your baby, and it's like a big party, and it's like, oh, they don't know and they don't care. Like, make it about you. Like, this is about you. You made it a year. And there's so much stuff that changes, like, that will change about breastfeeding, but like so many other things too, you don't have to deal with anymore. Like, they're not these tiny, fragile little newborns that just scare you with every move that they make. Like, there's so many things that they just get bigger and kind of stronger, and they're a little more sturdy. And there's so many of those things that you get to move on from that really vulnerable time. I know some people really enjoy that time. I did not.
I did not either.
It was very anxiety provoking for me. Every little thing caused me severe anxiety and panic. And I just didn't like it. When they got bigger, it was, I don't want to say easier, because then you just come into, there's new things.
Yeah, it's just different.
But I was happy to leave those really more like fragile, vulnerable times behind.
One of the things that I think is something that every parent, when we talk about weaning, they're never sure what to do about solids. What do we do about this? What happens with solids? What do I give her now? What do I tell the daycare to give her? If I'm taking, the bottles away, what are we putting something in place of that? I'm afraid they're going to be hungry. That's what people always say. I'm afraid that they're not going to get enough and they're going to be hungry. And this came up today when I was talking to this mom, as it does with every parent that I talk to about weaning at this age. And I was like, she's a year. She'll tell you. She'll let you know. You'll know if she's a year old, she's not going to go hungry. You will know if there's something she needs. It is a very scary transition to go from breastfeeding when you've been breastfeeding all this time to not breastfeeding. When you make that, if that's what you choose to do once you're like starting to do more of just solid meals. It's a big transition. And it's still, the breastfeeding piece of it is still really important. And one of the things that I was talking to this mom about today that I talked to was, because she said like, well, I don't really know how much she's actually getting from the milk at this point, or how much she's getting, or what she's getting from it, or, it is, your breast milk is really cool. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, that as your baby gets older, we know that the milk changes, depending on what state of development they're in. Where are they in their growth? Where are they in their development? Where are they, what are they doing? What is their body doing? And what do they need? And the breast milk will give it to them. And when they get bigger, they get over a year, they're eating more solid foods, they're taking less breast milk, but more solid foods. Your breast milk is concentrated to give them what they need in smaller amounts. So it's okay if they're
smaller
only
amounts of breast milk.
Right.
Smaller amounts of breast milk, but the same or more nutritional.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
It is just fascinating. It's amazing. So you don't have to worry, oh, the baby's really not on there for very long. They're really not getting very much. I'm barely making any milk anymore. They're really not getting that much, but they're still getting so much nutrient. If that's your concern, because this mom was like, well, so she's getting the comfort from him. Like, she's getting a lot more than just comfort from still nursing at a year.
Absolutely. No, that nutrition. Yeah, the nutritional value of breast milk never goes away. It is there. This is a big confusion too. It doesn't go away. It's not like one day it turns to water. The nutritional value changes with your baby and continues to be there for as long as they nurse.
Doesn't turn to water like everybody thinks.
No. Right. And it's still continuing to be, beneficial, to their growth, to their, the development of their vital organs and their immune system. And of course, like all of the intellectual, mental, social, aspects of growing up too. Breastfeeding, as we know, is, as we say, so much more than food. And we'll talk about more of that on Wednesday. But like, there's so much more that is just about, we think about feeding, the breast milk, how much breast milk and the milk supply and the feeding and the milk. That's actually a very small part of what's going on with nursing, and continues to be a small part, and maybe even a smaller part as they grow. It becomes, really kind of the basis of their relationship with you. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people worry about like, well, they're a year now and I want to go on vacation for a weekend away with my partner or whatever. I don't know if that'll, will it ruin my breastfeeding relationship? I don't know every story of every person in the planet, but like, no, it won't, because you know what they're going to do when they see you? You are a walking boob. I'm sorry. You are so much more than that to me, but to your baby, you are just a boob, and they're going to see you, and that's what they're going to want to do, even after 2 days away. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just go away. They don't just forget, and no, if they do, if they are, you might see these things, which you may have seen before they turn one or whatever too, of like, slowing down the nursing, because the nursing, it will go through the phases and all of that as well, with the nursing less, and they get distracted, and then they kind of come back to it. And, with Jack, he was always nursing so much. And then I got pregnant and he was nursing less, and I really wanted to tandem nurse. So I was like, oh God, I hope he doesn't wean. And then Exley was born, and Jack was like 2 months shy of being 3. And, he started nursing like a freaking newborn again, like all the time. And it would happen again. That was when he was 3. He nursed until he was 6.5. So, every year, it's just like over a year. Just because they're over a year doesn't even mean that everything from over a year is going to look the same.
Right.
Within that second year or even third year of life, breastfeeding is going to go through so many different phases. And, we get sometimes people, I feel like it's like the baby's like constantly nursing, and the parent just wants some boundaries, and the other person's baby is very distracted, and they're like, oh no, I want you to nurse more. It's like, you can't, it's like every phase is so like, everything is so intense, so emotionally intense with parenting.
And it's so different with every baby. It really is.
It is. And they act so different. Yeah.
It's just, very different.
And so different from week to week. Just, this week they're doing this, and the next week they're going to be doing something totally different. And a lot of that does have to do with age and the development that they're going through. But doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to stop. And but I should stop rambling, maybe, and tell you about the sponsors that I promised to tell you about.
Oh, yeah. And then then there's definitely something I want to cover too.
Yeah, totally. This week's episode is sponsored by Simple Wishes. Simple Wishes offers hands-free pumping and nursing bras featuring a patented dual-functioning nursing clasp to easily switch between nursing and pumping, and buttery soft, light as air fabrics for 24/7 comfort. Simply undo the lower clasp and slide your pump flange into the hidden pump support liner for a hands-free pumping experience. Undo the upper clasp for easy access for breastfeeding. Simple Wishes bras are smooth with no lumps that show under your shirt. The bras are designed to fit every shape of breast so that you don't need to feel uncomfortable while you are trying to pump or enjoy a nursing session with your baby. No one wants to waste their money on cheap products that don't last. Simple Wishes has you covered for your entire journey. You can check out every style of bra at simplewishes.com and use code BADASS30 for, you guessed it, 30% off. That's simplewishes.com and code BADASS30. And today's episode is also brought to you by Sarah's Chill. Never worry about safely storing your breast milk or formula again. Sarah's Chill was invented by a mom for moms and offers guaranteed convenience with their double-walled stainless steel container. Have you guys checked this out yet? A little bit of water and ice is all you need to keep your breast milk or formula safe for 20 hours. No more lugging around chunky coolers and dozens of containers. You can pump and double pump all day into one sleek container. The chillers are dishwasher safe, airport friendly, and last a lifetime. Use it for wine, coffee, and any of your favorite beverages or even snacks when you're done breast or bottle feeding. Head over to sarahschill.com, that's CERESCHILL.com, or check them out at Sarah's Chill on Instagram and use code BADASSBreastfeeders15 for 15% off of your purchase. And today's sponsors can be found at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. You'll find the links and the promo codes over there. And at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, you will also find our breastfeeding resources, all of our other episodes, and information about scheduling your very own one-on-one online lactation consultation with Dianne.
Yeah. So one of the things I definitely wanted to make sure we talked about, in fact, I even wrote a note and stuck it on my desk so that I wouldn't forget, was solid foods. And I really wanted to mention that if you happen to have a child who at a year is still just kind of like maybe not eating a ton of solid foods, they might be just like still trying it, you're still working with it, but they're not like super interested yet. And somebody maybe has mentioned to you that if you were doing less breastfeeding, your baby would eat more solids. That is not a thing. We are not going to take away from our baby to try to manipulate them into eating something else that they're not quite ready for yet. It is okay if you are still breastfeeding your baby and they're not taking 3 meals a day in solids because it's just not where they are yet with solid foods, because every baby hits those stages on their own and they're all different. But don't feel like you are somehow holding your baby back because you're still breastfeeding them. I don't want anybody to feel like that.
Yeah, I mean, some babies are real enthusiastic about solids, and when you start them at 6 months, like they're really into it. And some babies just don't really take to it. Maybe they like playing with it. They don't get much of it in their mouth. And at 1, they're still not. Jack was definitely not. Jack was closer to 2 before I think he was really eating a lot of food. And that's why another reason why breastfeeding was so helpful, because he was still getting, he was just, in the later average of starting solids.
But you knew he was getting the nutrients he needed because he was still breastfeeding.
He was nursing all the time. Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that there is toddler formulas now. So if you were somebody that formula fed your baby, you did not breastfeed at all, and they're formula feeding, and that baby happens to not be doing well with solids or maybe needs a little bit more or whatever, there's those toddler formulas, which, it's just a gimmick to get your money. But
because you can just be feeding them food.
Yeah. If you're breastfeeding, they're still getting in the nutrients they need while they are working on getting into those solid foods. But you really do hear people say, well, because you're breastfeeding, that's why your baby isn't taking as many solids. The pressure we put on parents for their babies to conform to a certain behavior by a certain age is just incredible. It really is, and it's just, we need to stop doing that just as a whole of society. That is awful, because there's nothing worse than when you have a parent that feels like, okay, my baby isn't really eating a lot of solids. And somebody else is like, well, they should be eating 3 meals a day and 2 snacks, and they should be eating this many vegetables, and they should be eating this many fruits, and they should be doing all this stuff. And if your baby's not doing that, that's okay. Everybody develops differently. Your breastfeeding is not the problem.
Right. We have these tiny boxes that we want like babies to fit in. We want school kids to fit into, people's bodies to fit into. And I mean, it's across the board, everywhere across life, that we want everyone to be exactly the same, except there really is no area where everybody is the same. Including your baby. And you also don't need to, this is a time where people are like, should I introduce cow's milk? My breast milk changes and it doesn't really have all the nutrients in it anymore. And so I need to introduce, I can't not be sarcastic about it. We need to introduce the breast milk from another species because mine just changes and becomes inappropriate and insufficient and at 1 year old. Anyway. There's nothing special that you need to do. Yeah, I mean, if your household drinks cow's milk, then you can start doing that at 1 if you'd like.
Especially, no, you don't have to. But if you are a working parent and you need to send something in for your baby to drink and you don't want to pump anymore, but you're breastfeeding when you're home with the baby, then send in cow's milk if that's what your family wants to do. Or you can do an alternative milk, or you can do water, like whatever you feel like is comfortable for your family. But you don't have to feel like you need to continue to pump just to send something into the babysitter or the daycare or whatever your situation may be. Your breast milk is giving your baby what they need. It really is. And the longer you breastfeed, because I know we say, oh, well, it's just, you're only doing it for you. It really doesn't benefit the baby anymore. Or, first of all, that's not true, because everybody benefits from breastfeeding. Second of all, so what if it benefits you? What's wrong with that?
That's the thing. It's like, why does it matter?
Right. I mean, the longer you breastfeed, and they've done a lot of research on this now. It used to be like when I first started in this field, we'd be like, oh, any amount of breastfeeding is good, which we still say definitely. But I'll still hear people say, well, my doctor told me if I could just do even a couple of the first 6 weeks, that's enough. I'm not going to say that that's not good, because giving your baby breast milk for 6 weeks is absolutely amazing. But the research that they're doing now and the research that they've been doing is showing that the longer you breastfeed, the better off beneficially you are. It's dose dependent, which means the more they get, the more you do it, the better the benefits are for both of you. So longer is better in this case. And it's not a bad thing for you to continue on breastfeeding, because you, as the parent, are still getting a benefit from it as well.
Right. You can't force your child to breastfeed. It's not like it's just for you and therefore you're forcing them to do it. Like if they don't want to, they're not latching on. We all know this.
Yeah.
If you've ever breastfed a child, you know that if they are not wanting to, they will not. If they're still latching on and you're still happy about it and you still feel like you're getting something out of it and you feel somehow guilty about that or selfish, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
That's total nonsense. It's fine for you to be happy with it. Why would we? I mean, it's vital for you to be happy with it and keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not happy with it, then stop. But it's like we're not allowed to be like happy or getting something, we're not allowed to be like being fulfilled by things. It's like if we are, then we're selfish. God.
I know. That's ridiculous.
It's totally crazy.
But there is, to be able to breastfeed past a year, like you reached a year and you're not sure, like, what should I do at this point? Should I wean? Should I not? Should I set up boundaries? If you're not sure if you should wean, if you're kind of in that place with your breastfeeding relationship where you're like, well, I want to give up pumping. So we already said you can give that up. But if you're kind of like, I'm not sure what I want to do with the rest, I'm not sure how long I want to keep going for, I'm not, I haven't really decided yet, then you can consider putting up some boundaries around it. we've got several episodes on putting up boundaries around breastfeeding. So maybe all you need to do, because a lot of parents at this stage, you're kind of feeling like, I want my body back. I want my, just kind of like not feeling so touched out all the time. That's valid. And maybe you're not in that place where you're ready to say, I'm done with breastfeeding, but you want to put boundaries around it so it's more in your control. And that's okay. You can definitely start doing stuff like that at this age.
Yeah, I mean, boundaries are really how a lot of people make it. I really don't know if there's somebody, I mean, maybe there are people out there who just like nurse on demand, follow the child's lead for years and years and years and years and are cool with it. Like, that was not me. I don't know how you can just be cool with that for like years and years and years. And it's like not a bad thing to be, putting up boundaries. And that's a whole other discussion, I guess. But
yeah, like I said,
don't feel bad about that either.
Mm-mm. Don't feel bad about any of this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think a lot of people are like, people wonder like, okay, I've hit a year now. So what do I do? What am I supposed to do? What changes? What do I need to be like adjusting? And you really need to look at like what is working for you. If there's things that are not working for you, like the pumping thing, you get to stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're feeling touched out, you get to now start working on some boundaries. But there's nothing that you need to do. There's no, it's not like now you have to introduce cow's milk and now you have to, now you have to stop breastfeeding a little bit so that they'll eat more solids. That's none of it. That's none of that. None of that. There's things that you get to do, but there's nothing that you have to do.
Mm-mm.
Now at a year. Like you have to start making these changes. That's not how it works.
One of the moms I talked to recently about weaning, she was like, is there anything I can do to screw this up? I'm like, no, there's not. There's nothing you can do to screw this up.
If you don't breastfeed anymore, then they'll stop breastfeeding. But
like this is not. No, there's really nothing that you can do to screw it up. They're not going to. You're not depriving your baby of anything. They're eating foods. They're drinking other things. They're breastfeeding when it's working for your family, or they're growing, they're thriving, they're doing all the things. Like, you're not going to screw it up.
Yeah. And I think that's part of it, because we think of breastfeeding in this culture as something that babies do. We do not think of it as something that toddlers do.
Right.
And it is something very normal for toddlers to do, biologically speaking. So if we can shift our thinking with that of like, what we're doing right now can continue this way. Mm-hmm. And if there's some things I don't like about it, then there's some of those things that I get to change now.
Right.
But there's nothing special. There's no special like toddler nursing book, where there's a whole different rule set. You've done the hard part now. You've done the hard part.
Yeah, absolutely.
All that hard stuff is behind you.
Yeah, now you've got more say in what goes on. And it's fantastic. You made it.
Yeah, and have a party.
Have a party.
Do we know right off the top of our head? I mean, these statistics of people that nurse for a year in this culture.
God, it's low.
It's very low, because I think it drops, significantly at like 3 and 6 months. So
yeah, because of work. Yeah, it's very low at a year. Like we could probably Google it, and
I'm Googling it right now.
Are you? Okay, yeah, it's pretty low. I want to say 25%, but I think that's even too high. That I know that's high.
Well, this says 36% we're breastfeeding at 1 year.
Really? I feel like that's really high.
Yeah, it does seem high. But also, I haven't found like actual. Oh, here's the CDC report card. Is this interesting, guys? Isn't it so interesting to listen to me Google? This is why you listen to this podcast. No, you know what? This is why this podcast is free for you, because it's fun. It's just supposed to be fun. And sometimes we just Google. Sometimes Abby just picks up her phone and starts Googling shit right in the middle of the episode, because it's fun and it's cool to talk about this stuff. Yeah.
But doesn't everybody want to know like where you fall in that percentage? I was always kind of, I was like, yeah, like not a lot of people made it as far as me.
It's not like, yay, like, haha, all the rest of you didn't make it. Because no, that's rude.
No.
But so here we have the CDC report card of 2017. Well, that's old, but relevant.
Pre-pandemic.
That says 35. That says 35%.
Does it?
Percent too. Yeah, for the national. But now you can break it down by state.
Maybe
can break
that's
it
what
down.
I'm thinking of. My state.
Yeah, that could be. Illinois, where I'm at, is 30% at 1 year. Everybody right now is like, look up this state, look up that state, look up this state. We can put this in the show notes so that you can like check out your state and like it's fun to look. New York, where you are, is 37%.
Wow.
Let's say we got let's see some of these. Okay. I don't have to sit here on Google. This is probably not interesting. Tennessee is 24%. But then you got places like Oregon is at 48%.
Yeah, they're really good.
It really
over there
does
on the West Coast.
it really Mississippi's at 20%. A lot of the southern states seem to be lower. Anyway, we'll put this in the link and you can look at it. It's interesting.
Well, when you think about like the percentage of people that initiate breastfeeding is very high. It's like 80-90%.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And then by a year, we're down to like 30%.
Yeah. So this is right here. It says ever breastfed is at 84. Breastfeeding at 6 months is 58.
I see. I really feel like that's 35. High. I really feel like that's high, but maybe I don't know. Maybe things just really increased a lot in the last 10 years. Maybe we're going in the right direction, right? Like,
I think we are, first of all. I do think that's happening. But yeah. So if you've made it to a year, happy first nurse-iversary.
Happy anniversary to you for I can't even say it, nurse-iversary. And congratulations. Like you deserve it. And if you're working towards that goal, we will support you. You can do it.
Yeah. And if there's probably a lot of people who have younger babies listening to this, maybe, I don't know. It's hard to keep track of that because babies grow so fast. So it's like, but I remember early on, when you don't have anybody around you who's nursing, when you don't have, a support system, when you live in this culture where you don't really see nursing, it's hard to know what's coming around the bend, and it can be really scary. It's like, this feels isolating. It feels like this horrible time that I'm going through. This really rough time is just going to be rough always. And like life doesn't work like that. Things as babies don't work like that.
Right.
It at least changes. There's nothing that stays consistent for very long. And so you can see kind of even just at the year mark, which if you have a young baby, it might seem like it's really far away. But you can know in that amount of time that things will be definitely transitioning and adjusting to something else than something probably vastly different from what you're going through right now.
Yeah. So good luck.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
And don't forget to listen to our Wednesday episodes.
Yes, listen to our Wednesdays. We'll love you for it.
Okay,
bye. Bye.